Good morning, my name is Terry from Triple J Designer and also Tefdad Creations. That's my business. I do laser, CNC, a little bit of everything. What I'm going to show you today is some different lasers, kind of explain what the differences are. When I started with a CNC router. Doing woodworking. They had an attachment that you could put in you had to turn off your router, of course, so it didn't spin, and they had an attachment that would go up in there that you'd fasten, and it would actually laser with a diode laser. It was like I want to say 2 watt, and then I upgraded to a 5 watt. Now they got 20 and 30 watt diode lasers that will do some pretty nice stuff. Actually cut through material and stuff. The one I had wouldn't do that. So I went from that to CO2 lasers and basically upgraded size. I bought a little 10 by 12 and then went to a 16 by 24, and now I got a 24 by 40 39 inch. And then I recently just bought a fiber laser. I didn't know at the time. I was going through a lot of different Facebook groups. People were referring to fiber doing glass. That's a UV fiber. There's a difference there too. I found out after I bought the fiber, which I mainly bought it for metal, but I thought you could do either or. Some of the newer lasers actually do. There's one company that sells one that does diode laser with a UV laser. Real low power. Power's not going to matter so much with some things, and other things it absolutely does. The more power with the CO2 you get, the less detail. So if you're doing etching pictures and stuff, I use my lower powered CO2 for that kind of stuff. But if I want to cut out thicker stuff, has a bigger curve, how big a hole it's going to cut, I use the bigger laser. It's also going to be faster, less power, so it's going to get more life on the tube. Things you got to worry about with CO2s, the tubes are like light bulbs, they burn out. I replace mine in my 80 watt once a year, about every 10 months actually. My bigger laser, it has like 4 times the lifespan of the little one. Plus I don't run it as, I run the little one at 60%, 75%. The big one I can run at 40%, so it's going to last a lot longer, not burn up those gases in the tube as fast. Price wise, I spend $300 a tube on the smaller one. The big one is like $700 a tube, so quite expensive, especially if you're replacing them. But more than that, it's a pain in the neck. I've replaced my little one probably 4 times now. I'm getting pretty good at it. So diode lasers, you don't have to do that. I don't know if they have a lifespan. I'm guessing they probably do, like any other machine, but you don't have to replace a tube. It's contained. You don't have to sight in mirrors. The only thing you have to do is adjust the height to get your focal point for the detail. If you have it too close or too far away, it's going to blur your image or not look good. Some diode lasers I've seen amazing detail with, probably more so than the CO2. Another thing to keep in mind. Fiber, amazing detail, probably the best, but a lot larger learning curve. So the fiber though is not on a gantry. It has a galvo, which has the mirrors in the head, and it turns it and fires the laser. These other machines I'm going to show you have gantries where it moves X, Y, and then Z. You usually have to adjust by hand. and there's a certain amount of space that you can actually work in, but they can be quite large. With a fiber, you're limited to what mirror size you have, lens size, and you have to make it high enough that you can get that size. My biggest lens is 300 by 300 millimeters. It's like 11.5 inches square. To get more detail, I can go to a smaller lens, but then I lose size. I think my small one is like 3 inches by 3 inches, and I have a medium one that does like 6 by 6, something like that. But once again, you have to switch out the lenses. They just screw on, screw off. But limited on what size you can do. But the fiber will do metal. It will do aluminum, copper, steel, and it'll actually get into it. Or you can surface etch, but it actually changes the metal so that it won't rub off. CO2, you can do some metal, but you have to have a special spray. It's quite expensive, 60 bucks a spray can. You put a white film on it and then laser on that, and it etches on it. But the few things I've done rubbed off, like little coins that you keep in your pocket. The marking comes off. I've done some bigger signs, and I don't think it came off because you weren't rubbing on it, but you know, it's kind of limited, and it's really you're not really etching into the metal like with a fiber. Also with a fiber laser, if you get a MOPA fiber laser, it's a special head that you can adjust the wavelengths, and you can actually get colors out of stainless steel, titanium, and I think copper. UV will do plastics, certain plastics, and glass, which none of these other lasers will. CO2 will do glass. I think a fiber, it'll just go right through it. It won't do anything to it. CO2 you can actually mark on the glass, but it cracks, makes little stress cracks in it, and it's real rough, and not as good a results. I've recently seen some videos where people are taking spray chalk and aluminum foil and putting things on top of the glass to etch, and it leaves it frosty and pretty decent detail. I haven't tried it, but the correct machine to do glass with is UV fibers. So cost-wise, diode lasers you can get one anywhere from 500 up to $3. I just saw one for 3,500. It was a name brand 20-watt diode, but it also had fiber capabilities. So that was kind of neat. They make a smaller version of that same company that's about 2,000. It's a smaller area you can do, but it does diode, and I think it was a 5 or 10 watt with a UV laser in it to do glass, and it'll do some surface etching on metal. So diodes have come a long way. This one I have here is an Omni Stack. I'm going to show you here in a minute. It's really basic. Some are gantry driven, some are fixed with smaller areas that'll do. So I guess that's about the overview of the lasers for the diodes. You can look up diode lasers, and it'll tell you all about the different brands and stuff. Since I have this Omni Stack here, I'll show it to you. So it's set up in the gantry, open gantry. So you have your little power box. Let's see here. Little power box here, and then you got your plug-in that goes to your computer. Let's see if I can get this turned around here. Nope, doesn't want to work for me today. Alright, so this is your diode. This is the laser and everything you need right here. It normally comes with a thing to set your height. I don't have any leather except for my wallet, so I'm going to try it here. I think I have that set pretty close to where it needs to be. Don't know. I looked up the distance for this laser, what the results are. For on this, you have two little set screws right here, and then this thing will slide up and down. So you would set it down on your material, and that's what I got. There we go. So one on each side. So if you're going to be doing a bunch of different size stuff, this little setup isn't very handy. So usually you want just enough clearance in there. Like I said, I don't remember the exact clearance height. I looked it up when I got this machine to do some test pieces, and then I kind of forgot it because it's going back to its owner here probably later this week. So and if you don't have the measuring tool, it's usually just a little piece of plastic you put in between the material and you bring that down to it. Then you can cut your own. I used pieces stacked up, glued them together for my other laser as a quick guide to set the height. I think before I get too excited to. Okay, so the other thing is you're going to need is Lightburn. This is Lightburn. It's a pretty simple program to use. I'll show you here. We're going to come over here and hit our tool, and we'll just put Terry. Since it's my wallet, we're going to play around with. And then you can click on the little arrow tool and you're going to set your height. It's set at 0.7. You can change that to make it whatever height you want. We hit enter and it adjusts the width. We're about 3 inches. My wallet should be at least 3 inches, so I think we'll go with that. Then you come over here and you make sure it's these diodes use a GRBL coating. I have Ruida. If you buy a CO2, make sure it has a Ruida controller. Make life a lot easier, and it will be compatible with the Lightburn. I've heard bad stories about people that didn't get the Ruida. They struggle with the software that comes with the laser, not happy with it. So and then these other settings were for my fiber lasers. So it is waiting for a connection. So just playing around with this, the little bit I have, I've noticed that getting a connection is kind of a pain in the neck with these things. And I don't know if that's this particular device or if it's because I have several devices on my computer. I'll get rid of the multi-ports here, maybe it'll be able to find it easier. Reboot it too. Oh, there we go. Okay, so that's a bigger than I thought it was going to be. So we're going to come change this to, let's say 2 inches wide. And so when you get your device set up, I'm going to hit frame. Frame kind of shows you the outline of where it's going to go. Make sure your material's underneath it, and then you just hit have it on fill, and we're going to bring the power down to 25% and run it at 1,000. So we use that as kind of a baseline for these lasers. So as you can see, it goes to work. All right, so I promised a cutting test, kind of show you what these machines will do. So I just replaced my airline, and we're going to show you kind of what the difference in cutting with these machines will do. So I got some scrap wood here. We'll start out with the big stuff. So as you can see on my 100 watt, I can cut through some pretty thick stuff. This is mesquite hardwood. It's just under looks like 3/8. So I can cut 3/8. It's not perfect, and with milled wood, you're gonna get some little fluctuations with the blade on a mill. So sometimes it doesn't all the way cut all the way through, as you can see. Sometimes I have to chip it out, or sometimes it just doesn't cut for some reason. But it will do the job. Most times I tell my miller to try to get it to close to a 1/4 inch as possible. That way I know it cuts out every time. I had a few of these Texases that I cut out that I had to push through or sand the back of them. There's some tricks to getting them out if they don't cut all the way through. It does it most of the way, and then I take and I think on one of these, no, it was over by my other shop. I had to take a paddle grinder to grind the back of them and get them the rest of the way through. I have the thicker wood here so that I can actually make signs. I'll engrave like this. That was some designs I was engraving for somebody. You don't have to just cut the wood out. This thing will engrave on just about anything. You just have to be careful. That was another messed up piece. So this is the board I told you I usually cut out. It also engraves fairly nicely. I take the side that isn't have the design, that doesn't have the design on it, and you can see it leaves a pretty good burn without a whole lot of overburn. So sometimes you want the overburn, sometimes you don't. That's overburn. It's, you can adjust your power, but then you lose some of the darkness. You can adjust your speed. Sometimes you'll lose some depth. You just got to find a happy medium, or you can tape, put tape down, burn on it. For smaller stuff, I use blue tape or masking tape, and I just put it over top, like when I'm doing cutting boards that are already finished. Then I engrave and take the tape off, and it's nice and clean. So that's another trick. Or if it's this natural wood, it doesn't matter if it has overburn, because you can do a nice light sand, and it's going to clean all that up, and you're going to sand it anyway most of the time. So matter of fact, a lot of times we'll engrave deep into something and then spray paint the whole board so that the engravings get a coating of paint on it, and then we'll sand the top of it, and then all that's left is the paint inside the engravings, and that'll darken up like light stuff like this. However, with like this cheap birch stuff, you can't do enough sanding on it without losing your wood birch layer. So it depends on what material you're using. This is what I was making out of the birch for Mother's Day. I made one for a whole baseball team, one to give their mothers, and as you can see, it did a pretty good job of leaving a nice good edge. It cuts out I believe that's 1/8 inch birch, and then I cut backgrounds for it to glue it to. So this is an example of I get a lot of requests for I have actually the ring of roses that I make, and then this glues inside of it, but this one here, I actually like the overburn. It adds some contrast to her feature, and kind of I will do a light sanding over this, because her dress has these little, or throw has these little stars, and the overburn doesn't bring out the stars. But if you do a light sanding over that, it brings out all that detail. But yet I try to not hit, on some of these I try to not hit her face and hands and stuff, because it kind of gives it like a shadowing that I think looks nice. So it's kind of preference. This is another material, and so with the hardwood, I only use 100 watts. If you're going to do hardwoods, If you want to cut out like handle scales and something that might help with your making handles out of slabs of wood and profiling them for certain knives, you need at least 100 watt. So something I didn't mention is I did mention the air pump. You need an air pump. That's 50 bucks, 70 bucks, something like that. The machine comes ready to run. However, you have to buy, if you're going to put this, it has to be in a cooled shop. It can't go in your garage unless you have it AC. Your room temperature has to be below 80, below 70, not below 70, below 80. I haven't got a temperature gauge out here. I keep this little AC, I keep it at 67, but we're in Texas. It's still, I'm guessing 75 in here most of the time, especially in the afternoon, in the middle of the day, early morning. But you need to cool the water that goes in the tubes. So you have this machine here is a chiller. I bought a 5202 industrial chiller. This was like I don't want to lie, I'm gonna say $500-600. But it is, you only need a 5101 or 5100. But they're gonna say chillers. You're gonna see chillers for 150 bucks, 200 bucks. Those aren't chillers. They call them chillers, but they're not chillers. They're just water movers. They just move the water. This actually chills you. It has, you can hear it running. It actually has a thing in there that chills the water. It has a temperature gauge. I'm chilling it at 19.6 Celsius. That when I'm running machines, that'll jump up to about 21, 22. If I don't cool the surrounding air, that thing is useless. The water has to be chilled for these things, or you'll burn up your tube, and burn up your machine. So I had this machine inside my house in an air-conditioned room. I vented it out the window when I used it. You don't want to take off the front cover. I got stuff sticking out, so I take off the front cover. If you have it in your house, you don't want all that smoke in there. It'll draw most of it out, but you'll still get some stink in the house. But I had it in the house, so I had a chiller. My first one lasted a year and burned out. It was like 400 bucks. Maybe it lasted 2 years. I don't know. It was right before the warranty expired, and then the people wouldn't answer me about the warranty. So I bought a regular, a non-chilling water mover. It just moves the water. It worked fine inside the house. Once I moved it back out of the house, out here, even though I have an AC in here, really, they really suggest you chill your water, because otherwise you're just going to be going through tubes a lot faster, and it's not good on the machines. So I bought this one. I've had this one for as long as I've had this machine, a year and a half, something like that. So far it's going strong. I have my backup water mover out in the shop in case this one goes down, but this one will run 2 machines. So I have 4 lines. That one goes to this machine and then comes back in here, and this one goes to that machine, comes inlet, outlet, inlet, outlet. So it has 4 different things. It blows your hot air back here. It has a water gauge that you have to check on. I'm still full. You want to top that off every once in a while, but it moves that water through the tubes. Here's my big tube. A little dusty, but that water goes inside. You can see air bubbles over there. those little air bubbles don't hurt anything. But it runs through there, cools the gases while you're firing that laser. So just in case you're curious, this is the smaller $300 tube. And you have to replace that little black wire, that red one that's in the casing, then your water lines, and then you got 2 clamps, and then that baby comes out. Oh, and then the water line over here. So anyway, back to cutting. This is another material I cut a lot of. We cut little animals and squares out of this for our bow. We make little bows that shoot barbecue skewers. My buddy does. And we cut little animal shapes out of this that's set up that you can shoot the little bows at. And this is just foam board. I pay like $1 at the dollar store for it. Has foam in the inside. So this here will cut, but you got to do it quick. You get low power, quick burn. It'll cut out, as you can see, pretty perfect. But you got to keep an eye on it because sometimes it'll flame up or set this stuff on fire, and it goes quick. I mean, it's really flammable. So I found a nice sweet spot with cutting stuff with it, which I need to cut some stuff out for that, so we might just throw some in there here, and I'll show you it in action. And then of course my plastic here, this is polycarbonate that we get. This is what we make most of our stuff out of because you can bend this stuff and it doesn't snap. Acrylic, if you bend acrylic, it will snap in half, and so we don't want our stuff snapping. So here's I get my nozzle where I want it, and then I hit origin here. This is what I was talking about. This is my little height tool. So you'll put this underneath your little nozzle there, and I'm a little bit, so I'll bring my bed down until I can get it underneath the nozzle, and then it should be, there it is. So just snug under there, and then I pull it out, and that's how you set your height. On this machine, you turn that knob and the bed goes up and down. This is your air supply. So there's my air. If I take this and fold it down and then twist it, you have your lens in here. That's what you have to take out to clean. And you just put it back on and shove that in there. And then right up here, this is your mirror. You have to have a special tool. You twist that off, your mirror comes out. You also have a mirror right there that you don't have to take out. You can just clean it off by hand. And then through that hole, when you open your hood for your laser, right in front of the laser, I don't know if you saw it, there's another lens. So another mirror. You got to keep those 3 mirrors clean, and that lens underneath there clean. And when you take that tube off, this is the replacement tube that I use for mirrors. You can see what that lens looks like. This one actually has 2 lenses, and this is this has 2 lenses that are inside there, and it focuses it twice to make the DPI smaller for pictures. So this will go on there, and then this hose slips up into there, and it works really good. So let's see what we got here. So the nice part about these machines is they actually have a hard drive. So I can go over here to File, and I have certain files in here that I cut a lot of the same stuff. Let's see if we can find something. That'll work. So we're gonna cut a bunch of bow handles out. I'm just trying to get this machine tested to running and got it in place. So the first thing you want to do is hit frame. Is going to show you where it's going to cut. So then you're going to adjust your material how you need it. It's going to go from corner to corner, just showing you where it's going to cut. When it looks good, push the thing down, hit start, and you can see it. Start to do its thing. Alright, sorry, hit the pause button, but that's what you want to look for. That real bright light means that it's reflecting off the material. Kind of the flickering, not so bright light shows me that it's cutting through the material, because the burn, most of the flame is going underneath the material. That bright means it possibly didn't cut all the way through. That means that you either need to slow it down or increase your power or check your depth, which is what I did after I repowered. So here we're logging on. So while that's cutting, turn that power up a little bit. While that's cutting, so we talked about needing a chiller. I have a buddy that has a chiller. He bought one of these blue ones. There's white ones and blue ones. Two different companies make them. I bought the white one. It lasted a year. Popped out on me. I bought this blue one. Had it for a year and a half, and it's still running strong, running two machines. My buddy has a blue one. He bought his laser. And he don't run it as much as me, but he does run it quite a bit. And he's had his for probably 3 years, and it's still running strong. So I wouldn't buy the white one again. Just FYI. So this is the other thing you'll need to buy to run one of these lasers, the fiber lasers, this laser, any of the lasers. If you buy a laser that they can't run a light burn, you're gonna have lots of issues, a lot more issues. This software's $120. It runs the why are you foggy? There we go. It runs the all the lasers, works on my fiber, the CO2, and the diodes. It's pretty standard. It's simplistic. It will do quite a bit. Drawing, text tool, arrow tools. You can take and edit designs. I don't use this as my editor. It doesn't do enough for what I need, and I'm quicker with my other software, but I still use this on running my machines. So here's my designs. They're red because I want to cut them out. If I wanted to etch them, I just pick a color down here, and now it will etch the shapes and designs. And sorry, my lighting sucks in here. Got a lot of glare. These are the backstops for our boxes for people to shoot at, and then the little target. dragons, and then these are the bottoms that slip up into here. He glues them on so they'll stand up. And then we have I'll turn these black for you. We have all types of designs and different animals, dragons and mice and cows and all kinds of stuff. This isn't even all of them. This is just a quick file to show you. I actually opened this for these right here because I need to cut some of those, and it's a quick cutout that I can show you guys. And so I'm gonna hit start. So another trick, see it started my machine. Now once you hit start, you can hit stop, and it loads just what I selected into the machine. Whereas this one I had saved. This one I'm running off my computer. I just plug it in right there. It automatically picks my Ruida. I select the design I want to cut out. I selected the whole box. I hit start, so it uploads that into here. And now, if that's the only thing I want to cut out, I can unplug my computer. And this is what I do when I'm out here, is I'll start something burning. I'll move it over to my next workstation because I'm going to do some cards next. And so I need my computer for that. The fiber laser, the downfall of that is it don't have a hard drive. So I have to keep my computer plugged into it the whole time it's running. Major pain. As you can see, I have another laptop down there. That's so that I don't have to keep my design computer out here. But now that this has started running, we can grab a piece of foam board. Yes, I keep in stock. As you can tell, I got plenty of stuff cut out except for this stuff. So So I just want to put my material in. So this light foam board, as once you can tell, it bows, which is a problem with the laser. You don't want it bowing. Because of that whole focus thing. So on the side here, I have these little magnets. These magnets came out of one of these from Harbor Freight. And I'll just kind of keep it weighted down as best I can to keep it as flat as I can. And then I'll go ahead and frame it so I know I'm not going to hit any of my magnets. This one's nice because it has that little dot so you can kind of see where the laser's going to go. And then you just hit your start button. You can see it's pretty quick. I should have taken that sticker off before I burned it because it's a lot easier to take off before. But it's all good. Now, if I change the power or speed on this, even a little bit, you look under there, you can see the flames going underneath. It's a good combination of speed, power, and also airflow. Like sometimes just because it's bent a little bit, or if I don't have my air, if it gets kinked or something, it literally will set this material on fire. So I literally, you see that? That's smoldering. It started to catch something on fire on the bottom. So a lot of times you won't even know it's starting until you start to see it go up in flames. Alright, so once it's done, it returns to its origin. Take the magnets off. And there's my foam board. So I don't know if there's another good use for foam board that might be handy in the knife world, but just showing you that you can cut some awkward materials. The thing you do not want to cut with these lasers, or any lasers, is galvanized steel with the fiber. I found out puts off a toxic gas. Anything with PVC in it is not good. PVC lets off not only a toxic gas, but it also lets off a fume, vapor, whatever, that will eat up your lenses and mirrors and your internal workings of your laser machine, like your, I guess your wiring and shit, from what I was told. I don't know if that's true. That's just what the forums say. I just as soon not ruin my very expensive machine. One of the other things you'll need is alcohol preps. These are the easiest way to clean your mirrors and lenses and other things. Okay, so I've been recording, I did the CO2s, the diode lasers. Now the last laser I'm going to talk about on this video is fiber. This is the newest laser that I have. I showed it to you before. So we have a pedestal here to get this up a little higher. You don't have to have this bottom piece here, but right now I have a rotary underneath, so I had to raise this up higher, so I had to put the risers on, because this is our focal distance on this, and you have to actually measure it with this here. So you get your focal distance in millimeters, and on this particular lens, which is my 6x6 lens, it's about 405 millimeters. The 300 milliliter, the 300 lens, which is like 11.5 inches, it has to even be further up. I think it's 500 and some millimeters, 490, something like that. So a lot of distance, but for a little area. So it has its drawbacks, but it'll do stuff like these little business cards that I made, coins. You can see I can get some deep engraves into, this is an alloy metal. I also have some stainless steel. I think this is stainless steel. I think the other one was titanium, and then brass. Brass looks really good. You can also do copper. Actually, this is copper. Sorry, I'm not looking at what I'm showing you here. And then this is brass. I bought a bunch of these to play around with. Haven't done any dog tags yet, but of these, I've done some thinner materialed ones. They're not that great. They get hot and bend. I bought some these little bracelets. You can see it'll etch on them, and it gets into it, makes white marks and silver marks, but I can't get a black yet. There's a lot of settings, but if you get the settings right, playing around on stainless steel, you can see as you move it around, you can get, especially in that bottom one, you can see all the colors. You can get a whole range of colors, and these are little tests that I did to try to get the settings for the different colors. Haven't figured out exactly. I can get them to work in the test, but then they don't work when I program the colors into individual. Like, I kind of got it to work. You can see that Kansas City came out a little bit colorful. Acadian, the company I work for now, I was trying to get a green to come out, and it was more like a purplish off color. So it is pretty neat what you can do with it. I bought some of these little brass dog tags. Kind of playing around with those. Still learning. But basically it's the same way. I use light burn, and as we did before, you can type, let's do Terry, let's do so that you sorry, it's hard to type here. And hope I spelled your name right. Oh, and I forgot, it shows everything backwards on these phones. Well, that's all right. So we can flip the words. We can also come up here and change the style, the font. Get one that you like. There's all kinds. You can download all kinds of fonts for this. Usually go to dafont.com. And then, so I have it on fill, and I didn't explain this before, but when you pick your color down here, I have red automatically for cutting on all my machines. All these other colors and numbers up to 29 are different settings. So you come over here and you click on this, and it opens up a settings box. And in that settings box, you can adjust the speed, the power, the frequency, the Q pulse, which is how long it holds that power, and your passes, your line interval, which also changes what this laser will do, number of passes, and then you can do like a crosshatch or bi-directional fill. Tell it how you want it to do the fills, and then when you hit OK, it saves those settings, and that's how you determine, or how you program what you want to do with your laser, whether it's cutting, etching, making colors, whatever. And then you can also save those settings in a library, which eventually is the goal. So without taking down my setting here, we'll just make this a little smaller. And then the nice part about this machine here is it'll show you with the laser where it's going to edge and what the bounds are. So like that's the name. So you can see we're not going to hit the little point I put up there. So I need to move it. And now when I moved it on my screen, it moves the laser in the bounds of where it's going to edge. And then once we have it where it's going to hit, we can hit start and you see it goes to work. And the nice part is that blackness on the coin, that is a picture I tried to do and it didn't come out good. So with this, because it's actually etching off the metal and changing the surface of the metal, just because I messed up on this coin, I didn't throw it away. I can actually take and do what they call a clearing pass, and I can actually clear all this stuff off and then try again until you start getting down to the brass alloy of the metal. So I did that so you guys could look him up on Facebook. He has a Facebook page, Forged in Fire winner. Check him out. So I'm not gonna do a whole lot. I kind of showed you how each of them work. If I set the Q pulse and the frequency, they tell you what the max setting is, and that's about all they tell you. It'll actually engrave deeper into the metal and more intense. This is kind of cool because with the different things you do with it, like when I make my cards, the different parts of the card that I do different, it actually makes weird sounds that are kind of cool. Like I said, I'm still learning this one, but you can put your logo or name or whatever you want on metal, which might be beneficial for knife making. My brother, he makes, I don't have his production knives, he puts his logo on each of the knives right here on the handle, and makes neck knives, and he has MT knives on there, and on his limited edition they actually say the limited edition number. He makes 100 of them in a batch and it goes out to the shareholders, so they're all marked, and he bought a fiber just for that. I do not know, he just does a surface etch, doesn't get into the metal. I don't know how much heat is transferred to the metal. If you get into it, if it's, I don't think it's enough to mess up the temper, unless you were doing a deep edge. But for just a light edge to get a name or logo on there, shouldn't affect the metal that much. Most of these you can touch. However, if you look at this piece of stainless, that part right here that's bent, I was trying to cut with it right here, and of course there's two holes here, so I'm sure that added a little weak spot. But just going over the same name over and over, it actually started to warp the metal. And there's another place over here where the settings were too high, and you could tell the stainless steel, even though it's decently thick, it warps it. So there is a lot of heat transfer with this machine, with the metals, depending on what you're doing with it. So I just wanted to share, this is the fiber laser. It's my most expensive. However, I went for overkill. I have 100 watt fiber MOPA. So the MOPA on the fiber means that you can adjust the Q pulse to get the colors on stainless steel, titanium, and copper. It doesn't do anything to steel, but it's an extra setting that makes it a little more complicated to run. However, you don't have to get the MOPA. The MOPA on most of these machines add like $1,000 or $2,000 to the machine. You can get an entry-level fiber for around $2,000-3,000. Lower power. I wouldn't, from what I've read and talked to, seen on the forums, I wouldn't go 20 watt. I would at least go 30. 30 to 60 seems to be the entry level. If you really didn't want to spend the money, 30 would work. 60 or 80 would be better. But then again, you're up to around the 4,000 or 5,000 mark for a non-MOPA on the 80 watt. The difference is, from everything I've read and seen, is not what it can do, but the time that it takes to do it. So with like the deep etching and stuff, that's really where your power, you want the higher powers. It's going to do the same thing, but with the higher power, it's going to do it a lot quicker. So it may take me an hour and a half to do a coin, and whereas if I would have bought a 30 watt, it probably would have took 4 or 5 hours. I probably overkilled on this machine, but I just didn't want to be lacking. So you can get into a fiber if that's more of what interests you. I think that's what I was talking about, surface etching. It just leaves the mark black. I did get into the metal a little bit on this, but you can actually make it so it's smooth, but it still marks and it won't rub off. That's about all I have out here right now that I have already burned. I've done several coins. You can see them on my Facebook page, Tepdag Creations on Facebook. Everything I make in my shop, unless it's a repeat, I've done a number of them already, or I've already posted it. I posted on my site. There's several coins that I've done, that I've sold since I've got this machine, several business cards, and I'm hoping to be able to explore other things that I can do with this machine. If you follow me on Facebook, you'll see those as I do them, because I always try to take a picture and post it so people can see what I'm up to and what I'm doing next. So next we have some troubleshooting. I wanted to share this because, one, I was having problems with my machine cutting the plastic, and I think if you're going to own one of these machines, you kind of need to know what is involved. I didn't know any of this when I got into it. It's not just what you can do with the machines, but how you keep them doing that, how you keep them running. And a lot of people, you can get on Marketplace and see people with machines all day long for sale. They buy them, they work great, they make a bunch of stuff, then they start having issues with them, and these OMT lasers, there's forums and stuff that you can get help and ask people questions, but really it comes down to, you got to dive in there and figure it out, and you got to be able to do a little minor maintenance and upkeep on them to keep them running, and keep them running to where they're going to work for you. And so my next section is a little troubleshooting. You don't have to watch it, but if you kind of want to know how to troubleshoot your machine and what it takes, what you're going to eventually have to do. to keep it running. So you know what you're getting into. Just go ahead and watch this next section, which I titled Troubleshooting, and hope you enjoy it. Hope I've answered your questions. Thanks. Alright, so this is my cut for this material. Several things I noticed. A lot of overburn, which that could be from a focusing issue. Basically, it doesn't cut all the way through, and the fire goes back up and burns the outside. The stored stuff, it could be a focus thing. So I did some real thick material, lost my focus point, and I actually lost my focus tool. And that one that I was using earlier is, I don't think, the right one for the lens that I am using in this one. It did cut almost all the way through, which also gives me another clue. Probably not my focus point. This would be a power issue, maybe, which it shouldn't be a power issue. One, I was at 75% power, which is what I usually cut this stuff out with, and I know that I've cut this out before at that power setting. So we go back to a focus, or it's a lens / mirror issue. So figured this would be a good time to show you what it takes to clean your lenses. So, like I showed you earlier, take this off. My little laser thing back here has a short in it. It don't work, but normally you'd have to get that out of the way. Then this spins off, and then inside there is your lens. So there we go. So my hands are dirty, which is kind of counterproductive. So you got this little cap, dump out the lens. Now, normally if you shine this lens up to light, you can see, you see that haze? That haze is enough to mess up your focus on your lens. That little bit of haze on there. So we got to determine if that haze will come off. First of all, that is from the smoke, and it's like when you're cooking and you put some oil in a pan and it gets hot and it starts to stick. If you keep the heat on that, it's going to burn it into that pan, and then it's not going to come off as easy. So if you catch it early and you can clean that off, eventually these go bad, just wear and tear. But if you can catch it when it's hazy like that and get that haze off of there, it won't keep cooking it into the lens, and then you can get more life out of your lens. So that's why I said, even if it don't look dirty, sometimes it's just good to clean it once a week. And you don't want to scrub too hard. These lenses are really fragile. And like I said, my hands are dirty, so clean off my fingertips too. Normally I clean my hands, but I'm being lazy. I don't have any cleaner out here. Yeah, I do. Normally I don't use a rag, I use my t-shirt too. So you don't want to scrub hard because you'll get little micro tears in these, or little micro scratches in these lenses, and then that also will give it a point of failure to where it'll start just messing up that lens on a very microscopic level. So then you put your little cushion washer in there. And then, so when you look at the lens, you won't be able to see it as well, but both sides, if you shine it towards the light and look into it, one side you can see yourself like a mirror in the reflection. That's the side you want up. So I always put it in there and then make sure I can see myself. And then this here, you want to just put on just tight enough that it doesn't move. Do not cinch down that. I learned that the hard way with the double lens. It cracked one, and then it was $50 more to get a replacement for those double lenses. So once you do that, real simple, easy, clean, you just put it back in here. This getting the screw on this usually takes easier with two hands. Put that back on. Alright, just got that back on. I said you have to take that off to get this mirror clean. However, some people will take and move their head all the way over there, and they'll kind of look in there and see if it's clean or dirty. Can't really tell, but you can actually stick a cleaning cloth in there, or they sell little sponges, little Q-tips that are really large that will fit in there. I'm not going to bother with it today. So I just lied. So I look at this mirror to tell if I'm going to clean my mirrors. See that white spot? That is definitely another issue. That is actually smoke remnants that has settled on the mirror for some reason, and it got hit by the beam and cooked it to that mirror. What you guys looking at? The junk underneath my machine? Sorry I dropped you there. Alright, so we'll just take and wipe it off with an alcohol swab. And since that one was dirty, I'll just stick this one in with my pinky, give it a quick little clean off. Just because I'm being lazy and I don't want to take it out of there. Find my tool, and then I'll hit this one here. This one doesn't get dirty as much as often for some reason, but I go ahead and clean it off anyway. That one's easy to get to. So, all right. So let's see if just simply cleaning our stuff fixed our issue. And all we're going to do is we did was clean it. And it's hard to tell with the camera going through this material, but I can already tell you that's cutting 100% better. And I'll show you as soon as it cuts out this piece. And I'm just showing you this because this is the easy maintenance stuff. Some of that flare up is because of the material. And it's to be expected, but we'll see how it cuts out. So if this doesn't fix it, then we troubleshoot to the next step, which would be doing a ramp test to find out where our let's keep cutting. Would be a ramp test. So a ramp test, we actually make a ramp out of the material. We do a straight line cut and find out where our focal point is, and then we set our height. And I think my height is off. Because I had a special material I put under here for a height, and I don't think I lost it in my cleaning efforts. That's why you don't clean your shop. I lost my my last ramp tool piece, so I need to do another ramp test. And if you get one of these lasers, you gotta learn how to do these things, because this is you don't have problems with these things until you need to get something done. So you're busy, obviously. And if it's not a focal distance thing, that's the last thing you have to check on these things is your alignment, which is a whole nother pain in the neck. But like I said, so you can't really tell from the front. So like I said, some of the overburn is normal with this material. Normally it happens when this protective layer is peeled up, and if you notice where it's doing that burn stuff, no, it wasn't peeled up. I was going to say it looked a little peeled up, or if it's not there, it definitely burns it. But I should be able to push through, and it's still cut out perfectly fine. And if we looked at the back was all the way through, unlike these where it's spotty. So that little bit of cleaning did the job. It made them fall out perfectly. And we don't really care about the overburn because this material has a protective layer on it that you just peel that off, and then it's nice and clean underneath on both sides. So we don't care about the overburn on this material. It's going to come right off when we peel this protective layer off, and you're going to be left with a nice clean part. So add that to the pile. We got this thing cleaned out. So ramp test, just so you know what it is. Stick the material in here like so. You'll bring the head of your bed down to so your nozzle will start real close to the material, and as it travels down here, cutting a straight line, which I don't have one programmed in right now, so we're not going to do it, but we'll cut a straight line from here to here. And then what we'll do is we'll look at where that line is. It's going to start off thick, it's going to get thin, and then come back to thick. We want to find the thinnest part of that line. Then we'll move this head over it and measure from here to the bottom at the thinnest point, which will also be the cut-through point. That is a ramp test. It's how you figure out your focal distance of your lens. And once you get that focal distance, you want to get some material either stacked up. Usually I use, and I can't remember how many it was, it's been a while, because usually I just cut the plastic in here. When I changed my focal distance and lost the tool, I don't remember how many of these it was. I want to say it was 3 or 4, but 3 or 4 layers of this material is usually the focal distance. I'll find out what that is again, and then I'll just stick it in my material, and then that's how you keep your focal distance. I need to make one of these and mark it. It's just kind of like a mechanic that never has tools repairs on his own vehicle. Artist that makes paintings for everybody but his own house. If it's not your focal distance and all your stuff is clean, then your only other problem is either your tube is going out, which is your last resort. But before you jump to that conclusion, and usually you'll be at 100% and not firing through, it's usually your focal distance, your alignment. So these mirrors have to shoot perfectly at a 90-degree angle, doom to there, doom to there, doom down to there. These little knobs right here, easy to adjust until you get back there, and then there's 3 more behind there, and they are a pain to adjust. If you look at these, if you notice, I have this goofy hot glue all over them. That is to prevent or discourage them from moving, because it is such a pain. And as soon as you get your machine, it usually has a little dab of hot glue on it. I put a ton on there. I'll put it in between the little gaps. I'll put it on the bolts. I just goop it on there because it'll come right back off. But if it keeps you from having to line your machine, you do not want to have it. So to line your machine, you put it in this position up here, and you put a little piece of tape over this hole. There's a little bracket there with a hole, and that beam goes through there and hits the mirror. So you put a piece of tape on this side, right here, and you pulse it. Pulse is a little quick. You hit the button, and it shoots a little tiny beam real fast at the tape. Then you move it over here and you put another piece of tape over top of the tape that's on there with the little hole in it, and you pulse it again. And then you have to look at which way they should hit right on top of each other. If they don't, then you need to look which way it is, and you have to move these 3 bolts. And I don't remember right, left. It's in my head. I just do it. I kind of know by looking at the tape which way the mirror needs to go, and basically this makes it go up or down. This one back here makes it go left and right, and this one here makes it go at an angle. And so you got to know which one to move, and you just move it a very little bit, and it moves that beam like to the other side of the paper. So until you've done it, you won't understand how big a pain. But normally, once you get this one set, so this one here, back and forth, you have to set back there. This will line it to hit on this one, and then when you get that one done, then you adjust these. You have to do the same thing with a piece of paper here, and you move this back and forth. So you got this way, and then you have this way. And then these here adjust it down. This mirror adjusts. You have to put a piece of tape on the bottom here and make sure that it's not hitting this cone. It has to adjust it straight down to your material. So there's 3 sets of mirrors, and you have to get this one set first, then this one, then that one. And it doesn't sound hard, but it is. It's very time consuming, especially if your stuff is really out of whack. So normally, now that I have it set, it's all squared, it might be out of adjustment a little bit, and I might have to tweak it, but now I don't have to make, once you get this set good, you shouldn't have to make big adjustments on like on some of the new machines until you replace that tube. Once you replace that tube, you'll never get that tube the same as it was when it came out in the back, and that's when you have to make the major adjustments. That's why replacing tubes are fun. So those are your troubleshooting things with these machines. I hope I didn't talk you out of it, because these are awesome machines and they'll do a lot of things. Really, for starting out, I would suggest a 50 watt. I keep calling this an 80 watt. I don't know why. This is a 60 watt. I'm sorry. I know in the last videos I kept calling it an 80 watt. I always wanted it. I always said I should have went to an 80 watt. So my friend has a 50 watt. It's a smaller area, 12 by 10, I think, 8 by 12, something like that. It's like a sheet of paper. But if that's as big as stuff that you need to cut, then so be it. It will do the same cutting power as a 60 watt for like under 2,000, maybe even less. I haven't priced those in a while. I want to say his whole setup was like $2,200, and that was with the chiller. And that was like 2 or 3 years ago. So really good entry level 50 watt blue OMT laser. That'll get you started. Do pretty much anything you might want to do, unless you want to cut the thick wood. If you're going to cut the thick wood, I can cut 1/8 inch. I can cut this stuff, birch, hardwood. This thing, it has to be 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch max. 1/4 inch is precedent with this machine. Nah, 1/4 inch, it'll cut 1/4 inch, just slightly under 1/4 inch. So my planer will plane wood just above 1/4 of an inch, and this will cut that. It's just, yeah, just right at 1/4 of an inch. It's the thickest this will cut. This machine, I showed you earlier, 3/8 to 1/2 an inch. That's 100 watt. So 60, 100 watt. If you were going to not want to spend $5,500, but you were going to spend the $3,000, $3,500, the price difference in a 60 and 80 watt, I go with the 80 watt. Honestly, it's going to give you that little extra power to cut the little extra thicker material. But that's all I can think to say about those. Like I said, this is a must. Your air pump's a must, and then your laser and your Lightburn software is all you need to get started. I can run some numbers and give you some links. Mr. Ryan DeMott, this is who I'm doing this video for. So I hope I included everything. Feel free to give me a call if you have any questions. I got a bunch of business cards, 600 to cut out now, or to laser, so I'm gonna be cutting that. If there's anything in particular, I was trying to find some leather for you, and I have a bag of leather somewhere and I could not find it. I got so much stuff in storage still. but trust me, either one of these will cut leather. 50 watt should cut leather easy. And actually, like I had said earlier, my friend's 50 watt will cut just as good as my 60. I was amazed. I think he got luck of the draw on that one. I've heard other people that struggle with it, but his is a cutting machine. It cuts really smoothly. So I wouldn't be scared about buying a 50 watt. Me, I like the overkill. I don't like to want more later. I like my 60 watt was the perfect size for me starting off, because I wanted a big bed size too. Unfortunately, you can't get a 50 watt with a bigger bed size. It goes up with the wattage. You can't get it. You can get some 60 and 80 watts in bigger bed sizes, but it's pretty standard. The bigger the bed, the bigger the tube. I don't know why that is, but other than that, I'm gonna get busy enough playing around, and I'll get these posted later on today for you. And anybody else that's watching my videos, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line, put it in the comments, and I'll try to get back to you and answer you. I did this for friend Forged and Fire winner Ryan DeMont, to help him decide if he wants to get into doing some lasering for his knives and stuff. I ask any of my viewers. I post a link on my TepTech Creations, and I'll be posting some more stuff here in the future. I'd say go look them up, check them out. Definitely give him a call if you're interested in a knife, something forged. He does some beautiful Kumite, Sandmite, Damascus knives. So go check him out, and we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.